goods to sell. We do not manufacture, we do not produce clothing, footwear, accessories, for instance. And these items have to be imported. And clothing is a basic need for us in the society. And what happens is that over this prolonged period of time, if you apply for, let's say, 5,000, you may get 3,000, and that can take a couple of weeks. When you get that subvention, you then have to reapply to keep getting additional foreign exchange to add to that. And then we also have some shipping lines that insist on being paid in US dollars. So that it's not just the importation of goods that we have to pay US dollars for, but it is also the freight to get the goods into the country has to be paid in US dollars in some cases. What the banks have done is very cleverly so, was said, okay, you having issues to access foreign exchange, apply for an international credit card, which will give you access to US dollars, and use the credit card to purchase your goods for travel, pay all your expenses that need to be paid in US dollars. So it came to the business community as quite a shock when the Republic Bank Limited announced a 50% cut in the credit card allowance in US dollars from 10,000 to 5,000. That is going to put a serious negative impact on the purchasing power of those of us who fall within the SME sector, because we don't have the resources to purchase goods on a large scale, container-wise, like the larger conglomerates, the larger companies in this country. So we are left subject to and become victim of the monopoly of those who distribute foreign exchange to those of us in the country. And that is going to have a negative impact. This is really not the best time to impose such a restriction. We're in the month of September, we're halfway through. And normally at this time, leading up to Christmas, this is when we purchase goods for the busy upcoming Diwali and Christmas seasons. And that is going to dampen the ability of business persons to be able to import these goods, to pay for it in US dollars. We cannot pay for it in TT dollars. Nobody's going to accept Trinidad and Tobago currency for goods that come outside of the borders of Trinidad and Tobago. Nikita.
Well, Mr. Singh, going back to the comments from the Minister of Finance in regard to, I believe it was earlier this year, he was speaking to Jamaican investors when he gave an assurance there is no foreign exchange crisis. He actually reiterated those comments last week, where he says the supply has remained the same, demand has increased. Now, he has pointed to online shopping as being one of the biggest leakages of foreign exchange in TNT. He also has noted very much so that we import a lot, we're import-reliant economy. But let's focus on that. From a business perspective, are you concerned with the online shopping and that leakage of foreign exchange?
Well, it's no secret, Keaton, that online shopping has become very competitive for the brick-and-mortar establishments in this country, where a growing number of people have turned to online shopping to purchase retail items, clothing, the same items we speak about, accessories, footwear, even small tools, small equipment. They are using the online avenue to import their goods directly, which comes direct to their front doors, and it saves them the hassle of the traffic congestion to get to a particular department store they may want to purchase something from, the cost of the transport to get there. And of course, because of the increase in crime wave, people would be more diligent in traversing the nation's roadways, and want to may stay more at home to receive their goods in the comfort of their homes or in the comfort of their business places. So we do note the minister's comments and concerns that we share, that online shopping has created a level of competition that is unprecedented in the retail sector from years ago. Even though credit cards have been around for a lot longer than that, we haven't seen this online shopping impact on us to such an extent now, because we have these large companies that global. You can get anything in less than a week on your doorstep. Amazon and the likes, they're very efficient in sourcing the product to you and shipping it to you. And we need to learn from that, Peter.
Just taking a look at the central bank's economic outlook. It was last issued in July. Now, Conrad Enel, who is Trinidad and Tobago's ambassador to Ghana, he says a country's ability to actually, let me get the correct quotation, the way you measure the ability of a country to survive is based on its months of import cover. Now, as of July, the central bank stated that we had just about 8 months of importation cover. 3 months is actually considered adequate. But it noted that foreign exchange sales to the public rose by 0.6%. Now, other banks have not actually made this move as yet for further reductions, because Republic Bank went from, I think, 12,500 to 10,000, now to 5,000. Is this something that, as much as businesses are experiencing difficulties from purchasing foreign exchange from banking institutions, is this something that may be specific just to one financial institution?
I think that what we may see happen in the very near future is that Republic Bank, being the largest financial institution in the country, we may see other banks following in the footsteps of Republic Bank and doing the same with regards to the access to foreign exchange, with access to credit cards. The banks have very innovative ways of dealing with customers who want to access credit, whether it's via loans or credit cards. And it is very easy for a bank to determine what is the level of credit you're allowed on your credit card or the amount of money you can borrow. That is no secret. Anyone who is in business and approaches the bank for financing can tell you that they can discourage you from accessing the level of finance you may need for your business to survive. So that they may say, yes, your credit card is $10,000 limit, but you can't get it. You're just not allowed to get that. They'll say you can only get 5,000 or 3,000. And a lot of people who enter the system, they start with the lower levels of you get a $1,000 line of credit or 2,000 and builds up over time. You don't automatically go into the bank and you get a $100,000 credit card. That is only reserved for the big guns out there, in the larger establishments in the country, and that will continue to be so until we're able to level the playing field. The banks operate in an oligopolistic environment. They are responsible for our savings and our investments, and as well as the lending criteria. And that is just how the economic system is built.
But in terms of businesses now having to plan, is it now that they're having to plan, well, at least 3 months in advance, down the line, this is our outlook, this is probably what we can access, and this is all we're going to be able to offer to the public? Is this businesses planning, has that changed dramatically given the circumstances?
We will face several challenges with this new directive from the bank, because what is going to happen is that 3 months is not sufficient time in the cycle of stock upgrades, repurchasing stock for your business, because of the types of goods we import. It can expire, it can go out of trends, out of fashion. It may not be suitable by the time if we purchase 6 months in advance. By the time it gets to our shores, it may no longer be a viable product for sale. And while you can say, well, the time lag will assist and we can purchase in incremental amounts, the price will increase because we don't have that flexibility or that luxury of negotiating to bulk purchase, where we will get discounts on larger purchases. And this escapes the attention, apparently, of the larger players in the financial market, who, when they appear, they don't see the guys on the lower levels having challenges to purchase goods on a timely basis and in time to stock their shelves. And it brings me up to the Christmas season again, because it ties into the lengthy delays, and every year we face the same problem with customs and the ports of entry, where if your goods don't come in long before Christmas, whether it's container or LCL, less than container load or break bulk, you will not get it in time for Christmas. Sometimes you get it closer to Carnival because there's a huge backlog at the port because the port continues to operate on an 8 to 4 basis, no holidays, no weekends, no overtime. And then the business persons have to pay extra charges with demurrage, transport, rental, pay their own workers overtime to clear their goods in a timely basis. And this is how the expense increases for the business person, especially within the SME framework, Peter.
So, Mr. Singh, just based on what you said, could we explicitly state that conducting business in Trinidad and Tobago, or the business environment in Trinidad and Tobago, is only very much welcoming, I suppose, to the already established big name players or conglomerates? That business in TNT is only for people who have been in this game for years and probably have expanded over time?
It's unfortunate that mindset has developed, Peter, but we must acknowledge the hard work of the Minister of Trade, who has been working assiduously to get, for instance, the single electronic window up and running, to get more trade links being established online. She has been doing a good job in trying to reduce the time for the registration of companies and submission of documents. And these things take time, but the initiatives that the minister has been doing is lauded by the business community, and we hope that more support comes from the government sector, from the state, to assist the private sector, because we remain, after the government, the significant employer of workers in this country. And we don't want to see a fallout of workers because we are unable to access that ease of doing business, which continues to elude us. When we look at the world scale of ease of doing business, we are precariously low down the ladder, and we need to find ways to increase our international standing and how we do business, so that we attract foreign investors who will bring foreign exchange and cause a creation and an influx of infrastructure in the country, and of course continue to sustain employment and even generate further employment.
But is there also an opportunity to take a lesson out of what as businesses have been experiencing over the last few years? And that is with respect to a push for greater manufacturing. So there is less reliance on foreign exchange for import. For example, as you said, clothes are something that are absolutely essential. Is there a possibility Trans-Tobago could look in that direction as well, or should be looking in that direction?
It was not too long ago in my generation where we did have a couple garment manufacturers, a couple of factories that were producing clothes to a certain extent. Even tires, and all these companies folded up for one reason or another over the years. And of course, China, the factory of the world, is partly to blame for that, because the extremely cheap cost of labor in China makes them so competitive that it drives a lot of smaller economies in the world to come out of the manufacturing sector. And we must applaud the TTMA for the good work that they continue to do in terms of manufacturing and looking at their forecasted increase in production rates in the coming couple of years. But even then, with the manufacturing sector, they are challenged to a certain extent, because some of their inputs to create the finished product for sale or even for export, some of those inputs have to be imported, which costs forex, and then to be re-exported. So there's a delicate balance in how much is netted off from the sale of the item that is produced and manufactured 100% within our borders, and how much of that is discounted after we remove the amount of foreign exchange that would have been gone into the cost of production of an item. And that unit cost analysis, we know that businessmen will be looking at their accountants, look at it, their CEOs, into how to reduce that ratio and increase the net of foreign exchange that is generated from the manufacturing sector in the country. And that's why we also look at agriculture and tourism as net foreign exchange earners, because those are holistically produced products and services within our borders that can generate enormous amounts of foreign exchange. There are potential to do a lot of it, but we need to focus and energize these two sectors to give further incentives, especially to the youth entrepreneurs in the country who are willing but need some sort of further incentivization by the government to ensure that they go along this path, because the job market has shrunken. There's not as much room for growth in the job market as there once was, because of the fall in demand, the fall in supply of goods and services in the country. And we can push this forward, Peter.
Mr. Singh, my final question to you. The IMF earlier this year, I believe they issued a report suggesting that authorities actually create a more efficient foreign exchange system that would actually help eliminate foreign exchange shortfalls. That being said, is it, from the business chamber's perspective, is there a need for the authorities to actually now remove restrictions to foreign exchange access and trading in TNT?
Peter, that's a very good point. The economists in this country will tell you that if we remove the foreign exchange restrictions, there's the talk bandied about that we have a floating exchange rate, but the economists will tell you that it's a managed floating exchange rate regime, and that the black market for the US dollars is somewhat higher than what is sold at the commercial banks. And if it were to float freely and the market forces were to govern the exchange rate of the US dollar to the TT dollar, it could be a lot more higher and a lot more burdensome to the entire public of the country, the entire society, as opposed to what is the current exchange rate. And that could cause serious inflation in this country, because the majority of goods that we enjoy in this country are import influenced. And we have to be very careful in how we look at the restrictions of the foreign exchange. And as a possible solution could be, temporarily so of course, is that we have the 8 months of cover according to Central Bank latest published release report. And maybe we can look to an injection of US dollars into the economic system over the short term to buffer the shortfall of US dollars to those, especially, again, we speak to the SME sector, so that they can survive the upcoming Christmas season, which we have all been looking forward to. This will be our first Christmas season after the pandemic, and a lot of business persons would have invested significantly post-pandemic, looking forward to benefiting from the Christmas sales that we do on an annual basis. And the only way to do that is to have some ease of access to further foreign exchange. For us, we're not asking for foreign exchange to travel and go on a luxury cruise and tour Europe and so on. We're looking for basic foreign exchange, some level of US dollars to just purchase our goods, because the US dollar still governs international trade very significantly. The US remains our largest trading partner, and a lot of us import our goods out of the US. And even if we import out of China, we still have to pay in US dollars until the whole BRICS system comes into being, where they will not accept US dollars and accept their own currency. Of course, that's a conversation for another time, but while we wait on that changeover to other currencies that can be accepted internationally for trade, we have to still bank in US dollars and trade in US dollars to get access to our goods to our shores.
Well, Mr. Singh, all I can do at this point is to wish you, the rest of the team, and businesses throughout TNT all the very best. Difficulties ahead. But thank you very much for your time this morning, sir, and for expanding a bit more on this conversation. Appreciate it. And, well, looking forward to the next conversation, where hopefully it's a bit more good news rather than, further difficulties that have been plaguing for a while. But thank you very much, sir.
Thank you for having me, and Trinidad and Tobago, be safe out there.
All the best. Mr. Kiran Singh, the president of the Greater San Fernando Business Chamber, joining me this morning as we speak about the lack of foreign exchange, or the difficulties in accessing foreign exchange, and the last point I'm making there about the authorities and their restrictions on foreign exchange infrastructure that would ease access, of course. Ladies and gentlemen, let's take a quick break here on AM Prime, and when we return, well, we'll get into some more conversations. This one is a bit more good news, so we'll certainly look forward to that. We'll be right back after this.
Bill and Ruth fell in love with the Benjamin Moore color Dry Sage, but they tried to match it using another brand's paint.
I mean, it's close enough.
Almost identical, really. Yeah, there it is.
Never trust another paint to be a Benjamin Moore color.
Let the Home Store turn your house into a home you love. Get everything you need to give your home that special look and feel. We offer household items, lawn and garden, paint center, hardware, plumbing, lighting and electrical, toys and storage solutions. 5 convenient locations: 6th Avenue Barataria, The Falls at Westmore, Pennywise Plaza Shoguanas, C3 Center Branch and C3 San Fernando. Check out our Facebook page for more information and come visit us today. The Home Store. Turn your house into a home you love.
You gave us the inspiration to be first. We gave you the solutions that put you first. You walked with us side by side, and we continued to serve you with pride. First Citizens celebrates with you 30 years of achieving dreams, shaping success stories, and painting brighter futures together. And together, we'll accomplish so much more. First Citizens, together, 30 and beyond.
FanZone, your reliable, authentic supplier, has just gotten better. You can now visit our website www.fanzonett.com for your authentic wear and collectibles. The only place where you can use both your Visa debit and credit cards. Visit our website fanzonett.com to make your purchase today.
Welcome back to the program. Well, the Commonwealth Youth Awards, they actually recognize young people from the Commonwealth Group of Nations from the ages of 15 to 29 who pushes, towards democracy, strengthening democracy, but also the 17 Sustainable Development Goals of the Commonwealth. In fact, the awards ceremony this year was held with Commonwealth youth ministers, government ministers, senior officials, and young leaders throughout the entire Commonwealth, of course. The award ceremony also was used to commemorate the anniversary of the Commonwealth Youth Programme, the 50th anniversary, actually, of the Commonwealth Youth Programme. It was actually hosted by the Commonwealth Secretariat, working to empower, engage, and encourage, as well as to amplify actually, the work of youth across 56 member states. So the awards actually were held not too long ago, and the 2023 Young Person of the Year Award from the Commonwealth goes to Maya Kirtinanan, and I'm pretty sure you've heard her name already, and she's with us actually via Zoom. Good morning, Miss Nanan, welcome to the program.
Good morning, thank you so much for having me.
Well, congratulations, first of all, on your work and all that you've done, and more so this award, which recognizes all that work and all that you have achieved. Now, the very first question anybody will ask you is how it makes you feel. But I'm simply going to ask, what does this award mean to you, especially for all the work that you've done since you could start using your voice, according to you?
Honestly, this award, it just continues to motivate me, to doing what I'm doing. I'm really thankful for the work that I'm doing. It's being recognized, on an international level. I'm just really grateful for that right now.
And that's the thing, to expand a bit more on all that you do, you're actually an advocate for awareness when it comes to autism in Trinidad and Tobago. And you've established actually your own NGO, ASP. Tell us a bit more about that.
So I started Autism Siblings and Friends Network when I was 12 years old. Originally, it was the youth of my aunt's organization, which is known as Support Autism TNT. We are the ones who would plan and execute the events. So, we started the Place of Autism Fun Days, Christmas parties, summer camps, and so on. But Autism Siblings and Friends Network grew into an organization of its own. And last year, we applied for a grant from the Queen's Commonwealth Trust in honor of the Queen's Platinum Jubilee, and we were given that grant to start one of our main projects, which is RAL's Clubhouse. It's an autism center. So that's our main focus right now here in Trinidad and Tobago. It's a center which is located in Marbella, and we offer a wide range of services for persons on the autism spectrum, from as young as 2 years old to as old as 34 years old.
Mm-hmm. So what has actually been your focus in regards to autism? Why have you taken this pathway and even chosen to create and establish this particular network?
My brother, Raul, he was diagnosed with autism, and we're only 1 year apart, so we basically grew up everything together. He's nonverbal, so I would usually speak out for him. But growing up, really, it didn't really have much opportunities for him. I keep saying this over and over. I would go to school and he wouldn't, and I would always ask, why is it he's at home? Or, we would go to the park and everyone would stare at him. So I wanted to create a more inclusive place for him, a more inclusive TNT for him, where he won't be judged, and somewhere where he would have equal access to these opportunities, every creator is fine an equal place.
And you've been saying that you've been using your voice from the age of 12. As you just mentioned, your brother and yourself are 1 year apart, and he's non-verbal. So you've been actually fighting on his behalf and raising the awareness. But has that been, is there more actually to the compassion and courage that you have in your fight for awareness?
Honestly, it's just something that I'm really passionate about. I just love all those with autism. You meet so many persons with autism, and you meet all these different personalities. So one person with autism is just one. All of them are unique and special. I'm with them on a daily basis. I see different persons on the autism spectrum 6 days a week, all different levels. And it's just something that, you want to help them. You want to see them reach their full potential. You want to give them those opportunities. So it's just something that, I'm passionate about. I will continue doing, I'm doing my fight, not just for him, but for others like him.
I'd like to expand a bit more actually on your journey from your work at 12 years old till now, and all that you've been able to do. What has this journey been like for you? The awards certainly recognize all the hard work, but surely there were just times when even young people in TNT are not necessarily taken seriously. Speak to us about your journey and even the challenges.
So I've been using my voice since I was 12 years old to speak out for him. And, within my peer group, I would believe that, I'm taken seriously. Outside of TNT at the international level, my voice is being heard. Sadly, I don't think that the government or the persons in authorities take my voice or my advocacy seriously, actually. I think that the mentality in Trinidad is that, young people can't make a positive contribution, or, generally our voices are not heard. And I usually deal with that by, just continuing doing what I'm doing, because at the end of the day, I'm creating these opportunities for my brother. And, no matter who chooses to listen to me or, support me, I just have to continue doing what I'm doing. I know that the value of my work is important. And I would actually really love for the government to support me in this way. But until that happens, I will continue to make my little corner of the world a better place for my brother.
Well, it's beyond the little corner of the world. It's for the rest of Tobago, because I know your aunt, Dr. Radhika Mahes, actually has been of great support in her columns, also for autism awareness, she constantly reflects and actually looks at all that you've done as well. But this is not the first achievement of its kind for the award and the recognition. If I'm not mistaken, it was in 2021 you received the Diana Award as well.
Yeah, that was in 2020, actually. I was the first Trinidadian to get the Diana Award. I was just 16 years old back then.
Well, that is incredible. But, you know, in your speech as well, in receiving the Commonwealth Young Person of the Year Award, you also heavily praised your team, and you said teamwork was crucial to achieving what you have. Who are some of the members of your team that have worked alongside you throughout this journey, and I suppose the journey that is to come?
Honestly, there's so much to name, but right now I just like to, put the spotlight on my fellow directors, Rajiv Ramlakan, who's a soon-to-be doctor, and, Celine Frederick, who's a soon-to-be special need teacher as well as my aunt, Dr. Radhika Mace. They have been alongside me since the start, and, without them, don't know how far we would be.
And do you see yourself actually as an advocate or more so as a game changer?
Honestly, I am Raul's sister, so, I would say I am a proud autism sibling. So I don't know really anything. I get called autism advocate, I get called change maker, so anything really I'm okay with, once it's something positive.
Raul's Clubhouse has trained over 350 volunteers. You've developed Form 6 programs. It's quite incredible at such a young age what you're able to do and what you're able to achieve. So what is it that you're hoping to achieve next?
At Raul's Clubhouse, we just want more funding to be able to expand because we know how many persons we're helping there. Right now we are renting, but we would like for us to have our own building, our own space, with so many more resources and facilities. We actually want to make it, a top of the line autism center where it's one of the kind in the Caribbean, where, others from other Caribbean islands could come. So we just want to do that as well as, sponsor more persons on the autism spectrum to be able to have the access to these opportunities as well. I know we offer it at a lower nominal cost, but some of them still aren't able to, pay that amount. So we want to be able to provide them with everything possible to enhance their development.
Do you suppose that you would receive a lot more funding and support now? The Minister of Youth Development has publicly congratulated you. But beyond that, have you heard anything more further support or further help from any other avenues?
Beyond that, no, that was the only one.
Well, I could tell you one thing, even though you've faced a lot of challenges, yes, you seem to be absolutely positive. You've had a smile all morning, you've remained positive and headstrong. Is that basically the attitude that you're carrying forward, given all the challenges, but your continued push and drive?
It's all day, every day.
Well, I can tell you that's certainly a pleasure because I know you've also said you intend to pursue a BSc in psychology and social work. So, Ms. Nana, before we bid farewell, what is your message to young people in Trinidad and Tobago from a young person who is making a change and is recognized for all the work that she's doing? What would be your message to the young people of Trinidad and Tobago?
I honestly just want to encourage them to find something that they are passionate about and stick through it. It doesn't have to be autism. There are so many other social issues. You just find something that you're passionate about, dream big, and you could just don't underestimate your power to change the world, no matter how young you are. Because look at me, for example, I started at 12 years old. And you don't have to be rich to help anyone. Your time is very valuable and use whatever resources you have. So simply just be kind to someone and it will really go a long way.
Do not underestimate your power to change the world, regardless of how young you are. I think that is quite a powerful quote. And you're going to have to get that on a plaque, actually, somewhere. Ms. Maya, congratulations once more, and thank you very much for joining me this morning. I was able to interview your aunt a couple months ago, and I have the pleasure of interviewing you. And I look forward actually to our next conversation as we continue to raise autism awareness in TNT. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for having me. It was a pleasure being here.
Congratulations, all the best. Continue the great work that you're doing.
Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, Maya Kirtinanan, the 2023 Commonwealth Youth Person of the Year, joining us this morning. We're actually going to reach out to Ms. Nanan after the program and to get more information on how you can actually support her network as well as Raul's Clubhouse. Actually, I think is she still with us? Ms. Nanan, are you still with us?
Yeah.
That's my fault, actually. My bad, my apologies, actually. You can actually share the information with the viewers right now.
Okay, so you can reach us at 346-3228 or 791-1320. Please note that our opening hours are actually 9 to 5 a.m. So if you call right now, we won't answer, but you can feel free to send a WhatsApp. It's 346-3228 and 791-1320. And we also have a website. It's www.rahulsclubhouse.com.
Well, thank you so much. It's my fault. I apologize. I think my head's just stuck in the clouds this morning with all this wonderful rainy weather that we're having. But nevertheless, thank you, Ms. Nanan.
Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, we have a couple more minutes before we welcome our next guest. In the meantime, let's bring to you some regional updates to share with you what's going on across the nation. Now, a couple months ago, there was notice that Greendot was suffering from a dengue outbreak. Similar cases were being seen in Ghana. Now, if we take a look at Jamaica, the Health and Wellness Ministry has raised an alarm over the swift escalation in dengue cases nationwide. As of last week, a staggering 316 suspected, presumed, and confirmed cases have been reported. A notable concern is the identification of 38 cases of dengue type 2. Health Minister Dr. Christopher Tufton, during a recent press conference, said that this strain has not predominated the population since 2010. This report from Jamaica.
Dengue alert. Health officials are reporting a 500% jump in dengue cases, and children are mostly affected.
A deadly strain of the virus has also resurfaced. As Jamila Maitland reports, the strain was last detected in Jamaica in 2010.
The Ministry of Health is warning the public about a possible dengue outbreak. During a press briefing Wednesday morning, Health Minister Dr. Christopher Tufton revealed that reports of dengue cases have more than quadrupled.
As of Monday, September 11th, 2023, there were 316 suspected, presumed, and confirmed cases of mosquito-borne diseases, dengue, of course, being the specific designation. No, for us, it represents a concern, clearly not a panic, but a concern, because it is almost 5 times or a 5-fold increase when compared to the corresponding period in 2022, where 65 cases were reported.
Of the cases, 39 are positive. Children between the ages of 5 and 15 are most affected. Of concern, too, is that an acute strain of the dengue virus was detected.
There is the possibility that we can have outbreaks at this time.
Chief Medical Officer Dr. Jacqueline Bisesa McKenzie didn't say when the results of the suspected cases would be available, nor was she able to give an exact turnaround time.
As it relates to testing, the ministry says it currently doesn't have the capacity to test for antibodies, and it won't be able to do so until about January 2024. However, it says that public health facilities can request PCR tests.
All the providers out there, all the hospitals, PCR for dengue is available at National Public Health Lab. And as long as we have the information and can decide that it's a PCR test that is to be done, we can give you a turnaround time within days.
And for treating dengue,
part of the call from the Ministry of Health and Wellness is to encourage parents to treat children who have a fever with paracetamol, and to avoid aspirin and aspirin-like medications such as ibuprofen and diclofenac.
But what's causing an outbreak at this time? The World Health Organization reported that dengue cases increased during and after a period of heavy rainfall.
The ADs love people, And so they would breed around your homes, in your flower vases, all your tires, everything that you have outside. And so the information really is to search and destroy, particularly around your homes, to get rid of the breeding sites. And we are targeting the schools.
$200 million have been allocated to the National Health Fund for mitigation work. Additionally, 500 vector control workers have been engaged to sensitize citizens in vulnerable communities.
In recent times, the Ministry of Health issued an alert in the wake of an increase in cases. Public health specialist Professor Winston Davidson says the call is not something to take lightly.
This virus infects a mosquito, and it is a mosquito that flies around and takes a blood meal. In other words, the female mosquito bites the host, and then what it does is that it sucks the blood from the host, and in so doing it exchanges the virus in the host, and so therefore that is how you get the dengue virus infection.
Symptoms usually include nausea, vomiting, rash, and aches and pains. Professor Davidson says the Aedes aegypti mosquitoes continue to change breeding sites, which is even more worrying.
That as the temperature increases as a result of climate change, more and more mosquitoes seem to be breeding at higher levels in the country, in the hillsides. And so therefore we have a situation where the breeding sites of the mosquitoes are at a much higher level. And as a result, we have more people getting exposed to the mosquito bite.
And in order to control the spread of the virus, this reminder.
That if we know where the mosquitoes are breeding, then we can interrupt the breeding sites, kill the mosquitoes at the breeding sites, get rid of the conditions leading up to the production of the eggs and the larvae by making sure that they have the small containers in garbage or elsewhere around the house, that we do something about that.
Concerns are once more being raised about dengue in the Caribbean. As I mentioned earlier, Greendot was the first to raise it. I know there were conversations that Ghana was also facing cases of dengue, but this morning we are aware of the situation in Jamaica, type 2 dengue, which has not plagued the population since 2010. That seems to be on the rise. It's a more serious, form of dengue. But nothing impacting Trinidad and Tobago as yet. But as always, do your very best to prevent the breeding of mosquitoes, whether it be just littering or stagnant water. Now, there has not been much of that in the last 2 weeks, but still, given the rains that we've experienced yesterday and this morning, it just can happen overnight. Anyway, ladies and gentlemen, we take a break here on AM Prime, and when we return, the conversation continues. We'll be right back.
Here is the WESN News on the Hour. I'm Sira Ali. Thanks for joining us. Here are the headlines. Support extended to St. Mary's College after tragic loss of PE teacher. 88-year-old woman dies in San Fernando car crash. Heat waves threatens agricultural produce. Consumers warned of potential shortages. And internationally, UK Prime Minister extends deadline for ban on new petrol and diesel cars. Now for the details. In the wake of a tragic incident at St. Mary's College, staff and students have received compassionate assistance from the Ministry of Education's Employee Assistance Program and the Student Support Services Division. The incident occurred when the school's physical education teacher was discovered deceased on the premises on Monday. Minister of Education, Dr. Nayan Gaswidoli, said the ministry expressed its profound sadness over the teacher's untimely passing and extended its heartfelt condolences to the grieving family. Reports indicate that the PE teacher, 55-year-old Joel Garcia, was found unresponsive in the PE room, having previously complained of chest pains. He was immediately transported to the Port of Spain General Hospital, where he was subsequently pronounced dead. 88-year-old Sumintra Devi Singh tragically passed away in a vehicle accident in Diamond Village. The incident occurred on Papuri Road, when Devi Singh, a resident of Philippines, was seated in the rear of her daughter's Anjani Bisram's grey Hyundai Tucson SUV. Bisram lost control of the car and crashed head-on into a steel gate and concrete pillar at Veronica Lal's home. Devi Singh died on impact, while Bisram suffered severe trauma. Raiden escaped injuries as the airbag deployed. Consumers are being alerted to a shortage in agricultural produce, with farmers facing a difficult dilemma as scorching temperatures force them to make tough choices between feeding the nation and mitigating their own losses. Satyananan Maharaj, the head of the Arangwes United Farmers Association, highlighted the severe impact of the heat on farmers. This situation has led to rising expenses, heightened pest infestations, and dwindling water resources for irrigation. Maharaj added that popular produce items like sweet peppers, tomatoes, and cauliflower might become scarce in the coming weeks if the heat wave persists. Internationally, United Kingdom's Prime Minister Rishi Sunak has pushed back the ban on the sale of new petrol and diesel cars in the UK from 2030 to 2035. Sunak says he still expects that by 2030, the vast majority of cars will be electric because of improving technology. He also says there will be far more time to transition from gas boilers to heat pumps. A boiler upgrade scheme, which gives people cash grants, will be increased by 50% to 7,500 EC. And there is a new exemption for people in the poorest households, so they never have to switch at all. Well, that's news to the hour on WESN. I'm Sarah Ali. Thanks for watching.
We exposed 5 strangers to KFC's delicious chicken to see if any time could be KFC time. And at the first bite, the party began. We repeated the experiment during the day, during business hours, on weekends, with sunshine, with rain. And it's confirmed. KFC's flavor makes anytime KFC time. KFC, it's finger licking good.
Take some time for yourself or spend some time with the family at Sandy Point Village Hotel. Enjoy our various studio and suite apartments, self-contained with their own kitchenettes and Wi-Fi. We also have our famous 100-foot swimming pool and our beachfront restaurant, the Steak and Lobster Grill. And our location in Crown Point puts us near the center of activity from the nylon pool to the local nightlife. Call us and make your reservations at 639-8533, 389-2378, or email us at sandypointvillagehotel@gmail.com.
What's the best way to grab the attention of viewers?
Please exercise more patience. You have to be kidding me.
Doing what we do best. I'll say at the very least it's a conspiracy of laziness against the people.
Join me, Keaton Shaw.
And me, Sean Michael Small, for Talking Point.
Weekdays from 8 a.m. to 9:30 a.m.
We go in-depth on the trending issues and engage the most controversial newsmakers
as we get them to account to the people for their actions.
You can't go to the government with nothing. You can't go to cabinet with an empty hand, with a wish.
I'm glad that we're having this a sober, mature discussion.
In the present situation, I expect a continuation of the chaos.
Join us for the discussion, Mondays to Fridays,
only on WESN,
the content capital.
The issue, the continued rise in the price of flour and its impact on the cost of living in Trinidad and Tobago. How should we go about it? I want to ask you what has been revealed to you about the state of vulnerability in the country because of this exercise and because of what we're going through. Is the government losing the war on the vaccine front?
The discussion should revolve around the common good for the greatest number of people in Trinidad and Tobago.
How do we inculcate a sense of respect and regard for people who may not be of your own political ilk or persuasion?
The communities are now being used by political opportunists. So
when the tables are turned, it's the same way. Okay, this has been 10 questions. I'm Andy Johnson, and we'll see you next time.
Is it politics? What is it? Is it that nobody cares about sports?
The kind of support that sport used to get in the past is no longer here.
The thing is, taking a knee doesn't mean that that's the only thing you're doing on it.
Right.
Taking a knee along with other stuff.
Samantha, what are you looking forward to when you return home to Trinidad and Tobago after winning the title?
Thank you very much for speaking it into existence.
Is there no pressure on Nicholas Ball?
It makes me more motivated to work hard and to go out there and rep the red, white and black.
Why are we sending a team to the Winter Olympics?
There are a number of Trinbagonians who are in the diaspora and have grown up in winter sport. It's an opportunity that the Trinidad and Tobago Olympic Committee will not close the door on.
I also believe in the players that we have. Once you can motivate the players, you can get the best out of them.
People really want to know, what about me? Where do I fit? Yes. What is in the ride for me in terms of a better Trinidad and Tobago? And I'm pleased to shed some light on that.
The purpose of bail is to ensure your attendance at court. That's it. It is not punitive. It is not rehabilitative.
We, the police officers, we are professional, and we are here for whenever the survivor is ready to come forward.
We have the right to private and family life, the right to religious freedoms and beliefs and thoughts and expression. But these rights are not absolute. Certain rights can be limited.
The law is to govern the whole. It's for all of us in public.
Did you tell your hubby about it, first of all?
I did.
When you were telling him, did you think that he was going to think differently of you or less of you?
I thought exactly that.
In case you've missed it, it's an encore of Nicole Larson Live. Relive some of the riveting experiences of everyday people who candidly shared with me their stories, life challenges, stories of hope, and eventual victories.
Because he is not like man, because he is the God. It is a promise that we can hold on to.
The report came back that she had two properly...
Eric, behave yourself, no man.
Two properly working kidneys.
An encore of Nicole Larson Live, living in victory every day. Every Sunday at 8 p.m. and Wednesday at 4:30 p.m. on WESN.
Welcome back to AM Prime, ladies and gentlemen. Now, as we take a look at what's happening in Trinidad and Tobago, we've spoken a lot about the heat and the impact of this dry spell, drought-like conditions on businesses here in TNT, but focusing a lot on what's taking place in the agricultural sector. As you would have seen a couple minutes ago, consumers are being warned to brace for agricultural shortages as the heat is forcing farmers to choose between feeding the nation and minimizing their losses. Now, this warning comes from the president of the Arangwes United Farmers Association, Satyana Maraj. What he's indicating is that farmers are now not going to be planting much more crops as they rather save money rather than producing a yield that might be destroyed due to the excessive heat. Plants are burning up, according to him, and the water shortages, of course, are impacting them. Now, he has indicated as well that farmers are doing their best to chip in to get water, whether it be through clearing waterways. But according to him, that takes them into hot water with wasa, no pun intended. Well, I suppose pun intended. Anyway, and that takes them into trouble with WASA. They're also saying that it's too expensive for them to purchase truck-borne water supplies on a daily basis, which is understood. And he is warning that vegetables such as sweet peppers as well as other short crops, farmers are not planting as much. He's also indicated that the excessive heat has given rise to an increase in pests, which is also affecting plants. So we've got a warning from the Minister of Public Utilities that there may be further water restrictions should the heat persist. Now we're getting a warning of a shortage of crops and food supplies in TNT. Well, agricultural food supplies, that is. So moving forward now with other headlines that just update you. Trinidad and Tobago and Venezuela last night signed an agreement to jointly explore the Laurel and Manatee gas fields that the two countries share. Energy Minister Stuart Young and Venezuela's Oil Minister Pedro Telechea signed the agreement on Venezuela's national TV before Venezuelan government officials. Now, this deal is being dubbed as historical and exemplary about the nations and the relationship that both nations share. That is according to Venezuelan President Nicolas Maduro. He's quoted as saying, "This signing of this agreement to introduce technology and pipelines to begin producing gas in Venezuela's seas is an enormous message of peace that will generate resources and wealth to invest in our people." Now, Venezuela is ranked as the 4th in the world in terms of the amount of natural gas reserves. There are conversations still ongoing about the Dragon gas field, but there is an agreement in place now between Trinidad and Tobago and Venezuela to explore the Laurel and Manatee field. To give you a bit more of a historical background, on August 16th, 2010, the government of the Republic of Trinidad and Tobago and the government of the Bolivarian Republic of Venezuela executed a unitization agreement for the exploration and development of the Laurel and Manatee field. As a result of that agreement, both countries agreed to the independent development by each government of that field within the Laurel and Manatee cross-border that falls within its marine area. It is estimated that the Laurel and Manatee reservoir has a resource of over 10.4 trillion cubic feet, of which 2.72 trillion cubic feet is within the Manatee field. So this is very much good news. It's paved the way for further negotiations for the Dragon gas deal. So when we get some more information on that, we'll be more than happy to share it with you. Then, from next year, citizens of the Republic of Trinidad and Tobago could look forward to working from their homes as the government pushes for a comprehensive work-from-home policy. Now, this is something that was promised, I think, at least a year ago from the Minister of Labour, Stephen McClatchy. Concerns were raised by the President of the Industrial Court, Deborah Thomas-Felix, at the opening, actually, of the new law term, saying that this heat could actually make it a lot more difficult for people to come to work or even to operate within the confines of the workplace. So, Minister for Public Administration, Alison West, made the disclosure yesterday, stating that the government is pushing forward. They're about to make such changes, and that will be coming soon. So the public sector will be included, as well as the private sector. Office working hours on the policy is still to be finalized, but certainly is something that was promised quite some time ago, coming out of the COVID-19 restrictions, the lockdowns that we were in. There were conversations about a work-from-home policy. The Prime Minister stated that workers are lazy. They simply wouldn't function at home. And to be honest with you, I understood where he was coming from. But we are moving with the rest of the world, as many first world nations have explored and in some cases implemented work-from-home policies. And back to the stories of the heat. AC unit suppliers in Trinidad and Tobago are saying that major air conditioning brands, inclusive of Lennox, Green Energy, and Infinity, have sold out. So we're now looking at a shortage of AC units because, as you are aware, it takes foreign exchange to purchase these goods to bring to Trinidad. Coolmax Limited, sole importers of Lennox, Pioneer, Infinity, and Comfy AC brands, have stated that they are sold out. A senior representative from other companies said 18,000 BTU, 24,000 BTU, 36,000 BTU and 60,000 BTU standard units are currently out of stock. The warehouses are empty. So, you're going to just continue to suffer from the heat, ladies and gentlemen. Can't do anything much about it. And finally, the final story that I just want to touch on before we get into our final regional update. Teachers have expressed concerns about the literacy rates of students entering secondary schools, as some students in Form 1 actually cannot read. These students either slow down the lessons, and teachers try to accommodate them, but the rest of the class are left behind. One of the teachers raising this is Roll Ram Logan of the Carbochama West Secondary School, said that of the 184 students who entered the school in September, 99 got marks under 30% in their SCA exam. So, is this a surprise to us? No, it's not a surprise at all. It's not a surprise. It's not shocking at all. There have been issues with the secondary entrance assessment exam for years, but not just the exam, the actual rubric and the curriculum taking place within the primary school settings. And there is also this issue that school does not just happen between the hours of 8 a.m. and 3 p.m., ladies and gentlemen. School is a continuous process. When students go home, they may not necessarily get through their lessons at all. That just may be it for the rest of the day. And that is also a major issue. It's no surprise to me that students in Form 1 are not able to read. I'm surprised that there haven't been issues about them being able to write, because reading and writing goes hand in hand. And it's not me trying to be ignorant, unkind in any way whatsoever, but this is something that shouldn't come as a surprise. It's unfortunate, it's disheartening, but this is something that we're going to have to deal with for years to come, because what the COVID-19 pandemic did, and there was good to come out of the COVID-19 pandemic, but one of the big negatives is that we have a lost generation of students. We do. And it's going to be extremely difficult to correct this. Anyway, ladies and gentlemen, that's just a recap of local news. Let's get into some regional updates now to share with you again what's happening across the Caribbean, and we're moving across to Ghana. I'm not going to get into the CPL banter of what happened between TKR and Ghana Amazon Warriors last night, but it was good. Anyway, the update coming from Ghana is that workers from Trinidad and Ghana have been hired and additional equipment have been sourced as Trinidadian company Calco Ghana Corporation resumes work on the Conversation Tree to Dennis Street, Georgetown Road project. There were issues with Calco's operations on the project. Calco is in constant communications, at least from the reports that we're getting, with the authorities, and now Calco is resuming its operations. So let's take a look at this report from Ghana.
The principals of Calco came and we engaged them, or they engaged with us, and we made certain agreements. They have engaged Guyanese subcontractors to do specific aspects of the work so that there'll be multiple things being done at the same time to move the project along. So work is apace. I think my engineers who are supervising the project have indicated that maybe about 90+% of what they said they will do, they are doing. They had to bring in additional resources from Trinidad in terms of personnel. They had to hire more people here in Guyana, put additional equipment on site, and things like that has happened.
That was Minister of Public Works, Guan Ejel, engaging the newsroom on Tuesday. Calco Guyana Incorporated was flagged for poor performance in July after Ejel inspected the Conversation Tree, the Dennis Street Road project, but now it has been given a second chance.
If they do what they were told and what they agreed to, we will get substantial completion by the time the contract date will have arrived. We have made it very clear we're not playing on this project. You have a signed contract, execute it. in keeping with the clauses and conditions of the contract.
The road widening project, which is valued at $1.8 billion, is also being executed by S. Jagbahan Construction and General Supplies. At the time of EJL's inspection, 65% of the project time elapsed, but only 25% of work was done. EJL warned the contractors to pick up the pace. Works on the project include a double-lane carriageway on the reserve south of Delhi Street, the implementation of concrete revetments between the East Coast Highway and railway embankment, and the construction of large concrete bridges to establish a connection to Dennis Street.
Well, sticking to updates coming from Ghana, teachers across Ghana will receive cash grants to purchase classroom supplies each term. This according to the Minister of Education, Priya Manikchan. She announced last week Friday when the distribution of such grants started. This report actually includes a social media post from the Honourable Minister's page. Let's take a look at this report.
Educators teaching on the coast will receive $4,000 per child to make purchases for each student in their classroom, while teachers in the hinterland will receive $5,500 for each student in their classroom. This was announced by Education Minister Priya Manikchan in a video posted to her Facebook page on Friday.
Children on the coastland, each classroom, each child, each teacher of a classroom is going to be able to get $4,000 per child on the coastland. Now, the child doesn't get the money. The value of $4,000 per child goes to the teacher of the classroom. So for a classroom of 30 children on the coastland, the teacher is going to get $120,000 per term to buy whatever she wants to buy in the lines of janitorial, field, and office. In the hinterland, it's going to be $5,500 per child because things are more expensive and transportation costs and so on take up prices.
This assistance is part of the holistic approach taken by the Education Ministry to respond to the needs of teachers with training, smaller classrooms, and now cash grants. Over the years, some regions gave grants to schools and the goods were bought in bulk, but teachers said things that they already had were being stocked up, meaning the actual needs were not met and items were delivered after long periods of waiting.
Some regions gave a grant to schools, where the schools were allowed to go and buy whatever they thought they needed with the grant, and some regions bought in bulk for their various schools, so they would buy boxes and boxes of chalk or bales of toilet paper and share that out. Two things happened with that kind of distribution. One, teachers complained that they got things that they didn't need, so we already had toilet paper, we got more toilet paper, so it wasn't unique to the classroom and that classroom's needs. And then two, because of the procurement processes that have to be engaged when we're buying in bulk, any government agency, these goods took really long to get into classrooms.
Minister Manikchan added that the teachers and parents have over the years complained about having to provide the materials for classrooms from their own pockets. As such, the minister raised the issue at Cabinet and it was approved. The grants allow teachers to prepare and maintain their classrooms as they see fit by purchasing the janitorial, office and field supplies that they need, such as chalk, Play-Doh, markers, chalkboards, crayons and cleaning supplies. Reporting for the newsroom, Lizina Yearwood.
Incredible distribution of resources happening in Ghana. Those grants are actually inclusive of the continuous funding of schools in Ghana. So that is rather incredible. I thought that story was quite amazing, and we would look forward to have there any updates in regards to such funding in time to come. But our final regional update for this morning comes from Antigua and Barbuda. Sea level rise has already damaged the Twin Island States World Heritage Site, the Antigua Naval Dockyard. The stark revelation comes from Prime Minister, the Honourable Gaston Brown, who says priceless natural and cultural landmarks have been impacted. Prime Minister Brown was addressing the International Tribunal for the Law of the Sea in Hamburg, Germany last week, where he warned that the world is teetering dangerously on the precipice of a climate catastrophe. This update could see Antigua and Barbuda.
Now give the floor to the first representative, Mr. Gaston Alfonso Brown, Prime Minister of Antigua and Barbuda, to speak on behalf of the Commission of Small Island States on Climate Change and International Law. Your Excellency, you have the floor.
Prime Minister Brown opening oral proceedings on Monday in a case of historic proportions. The Prime Minister leads a small island state in the Caribbean, vulnerable to the worst effects of climate change. But on Monday, he spoke for millions more in a message which resonated with a fierce urgency of now.
It is no exaggeration to speak of existential threats when some of these nations may vanish in the foreseeable future because of rising sea levels. The scientific evidence leaves no doubt that this situation has arisen because of the failure of major polluters to effectively mitigate greenhouse gas emissions. This inaction, this failure of political will, has brought humankind to a perilous juncture with catastrophic consequences. It is because of this reality that COSIS has brought this vital matter before you.
Prime Minister Brown painted a stark picture of the perils faced by Antigua and Barbuda from disasters which will only get worse if decisive climate action is not taken. He pointed to what unfolded during 2017 when 3 hurricanes battered the Caribbean, one of them, Irma, devastated Barbuda. He pointed to a dark, dystopian future if the warming of the planet is left unchecked. Antigua and Barbuda's livelihood and marine biodiversity are in peril.
Current projections show that by the end of this century, the Caribbean Sea could rise almost half a meter over levels from early 1990s. This sea level rise and storms are likely to salinate our remaining freshwater resources and much of our agricultural land. This would exacerbate an already dire crisis in the availability of ground and surface water and food insecurity. Increases in sea levels will also damage coastal infrastructure, as well as the critical habitats of marine turtles, shorebirds, and many other species dependent on coastal ecosystems. Sea level rise has already damaged priceless cultural and natural landmarks, including the Antigua Naval Dockyard, a UNESCO World Heritage Site.
Climate change also threatens the country's tourism-dependent economy.
Antigua and Barbuda is a world-renowned tourism destination because of its tropical climate, beautiful beaches, pristine coastline, and ocean-based recreation. But the consequences of climate change jeopardize Antigua and Barbuda's tourism economy, which accounts for 60% of our gross domestic product. Increased natural hazards, sea level rise and ocean acidification, and warming all risk coastal destruction and the collapse of marine ecosystems that support tourism attractions and recreation.
Other vulnerable states also face an uncertain future. The Jurist publication says food, energy, and infrastructure in the most vulnerable states are at risk from sea level rise and climate change. It says if proper action is not taken, Tuvalu will have 95% of its land flooded by the year 2100. The Prime Minister therefore made this clarion call to the jurists of the International Tribunal for the Law of the Sea.
The world is teetering dangerously on the precipice of a climate catastrophe. We need your help. We need your guidance. I respectfully request that the honorable members of this tribunal consider the significance of the advisory opinion, not only for COSIS, but for the protection of our planet and all human civilization.
Climate change and small island developing states, the issues there are being raised, conversations coming from all parts of the Caribbean. Mia Motley has spoken tremendously about this, so has Prime Minister Dr. Keith Rowley, but also, of course, coming from Gaston Brownell, and how the Antigua Naval Dockyard, well, that has already been damaged due to rising sea levels and coastal erosion. Well, ladies and gentlemen, that's where we conclude for this morning's edition of AM Prime. Thank you very much for joining me. It's always a pleasure. A bit of reprieve this morning from the heat, given the rains that happened yesterday evening and early this morning. But as I started the program, I will end it by saying please be very careful in your travels to work or wherever it is that you're going this morning. There was already a very minor accident on the highway coming into Port of Spain. No one seemed to be hurt or injured, but of course it still impacted upon traffic. Ladies and gentlemen, just be very careful. But I'm Keaton Shaw, and wishing you a grand day ahead, maybe a good one, a productive one, a safe one. And should all go well, and we hope that it does, I'll see you tomorrow morning for more AM Prime. Have a good one. Bye-bye.
WESN.
I am Rondell Donowa, and you are watching WESN, the content capital.
Bill and Ruth fell in love with the Benjamin Moore color Dry Sage, but they tried to match it using another brand's paint.
I mean, it's close enough.
Almost identical, really. Yeah, there it is.
Never trust another paint to be a Benjamin Moore color.
Let the Home Store turn your house into a home you love. Get everything you need to give your home that special look and feel. We offer household items, lawn and garden, paint center, hardware, plumbing, lighting and electrical, toys and storage solutions. 5 convenient locations: 6th Avenue Barataria, The Falls at Westmore, Pennywise Plaza Shoguanas, C3 Center Branch and C3 San Fernando. Check out our Facebook page for more information and come visit us today. The Home Store. Turn your house into a home you love.
You gave us the inspiration to be first. We gave you the solutions that put you first. You walked with us side by side, and we continued to serve you with pride. First Citizens celebrates with you 30 years of achieving dreams, shaping success stories, and painting brighter futures together. And together, we'll accomplish so much more. First Citizens, together, 30 and beyond.
From Maracas Bay to Arafita Avenue and Piaco, Richard's Bake and Shark brings the world's most popular fish sandwich closer to you. Open daily at all our locations.
Is it politics? What is it? Is it that nobody cares about sports?
The kind of support that sport used to get in the past is no longer here.
The thing is, taking a knee doesn't mean that that's the only thing you're doing on it.
Right.
Taking a knee along with other stuff.
Samantha, what are you looking forward to when you return home to Trinidad and Tobago after winning the title?
Thank you very much for speaking it into existence.
Is there no pressure on Nicholas Paul?
It makes me more motivated to work hard and to go out there and rep the white and black.
Why are we sending a team to the Winter Olympics?
There are a number of Trinbagonians who are in the diaspora and have grown up in winter sport. It's an opportunity that the Trinidad and Tobago Olympic Committee will not close the door on.
I also believe in the players that we have. Once you can motivate the players, you can get the best out of them.
On the next episode of Nicole Larson Live, living in victory every day. Destined, innovative, virtuous, anointed. Yes.
I love it.
That's how I think. That's how I think God actually sees you, and even your gifts.
I'm still in psychotherapy, you know, over his loss and trying to restructure my life and to live again because I have that desire and I think that's what God wants because this is what he told me. It's time to stop grieving and to move on and to enjoy the life that he's given to me. You know, he's not finished with me yet.
To say now that you're coming full circle and God is like he's saying, listen, I'm affirming you. I'm bringing you back to your homeland just to let you know how loved you are. And he's using us to let you know that he loves you.
I was able to step out with encouragement and, you know, go to like Antique or go to Scouting for Talent. And those are the places that open doors for me.
Give thanks in all circumstances, for this is God's will for you in Christ Jesus.
An encore of Nicole Lawson Live, living in victory every day. Every Sunday at 8 p.m. and Wednesday at 4:30 p.m. on WESN.
My name is Carl Media. I'm the founder and the host of Ever Increasing Voice Ministries. Join me every Saturday and Sunday on WESN, this powerful station, at 9 a.m. on Saturdays, 1 p.m. and 7 p.m. nightly. Also on Sundays, I'll be on at 7 a.m., 1 p.m. and 7 p.m. at night time. When you come here, we are getting people heavenly ready.
We are WESN, the premier platform for Caribbean content. WESN, covering West, East, South, and North. WESN, we entertainment, sports, and news. WESN, available on Greendot 7, Amplia 118, Airlink 17, Bmobile 107, Digicel 21, ICNTT 105, and Flow 110. Connect with us at WESNCC or stream online at
I'm afraid we might see thousands of people fleeing, and it's really very important to find a way to organize with process so that it takes place safely, so that people can leave. Doesn't matter what is their gender, what are their backgrounds. There were some signs that Azerbaijan might try to select those who were part, for example, of the local military or who were part of the local de facto authorities. These are the people, if they want to leave, they should have a chance to leave. Those who want to stay, they need to have some sort of protection or something like, you know, a feeling that they can continue their dignified life while being at their homeland. How it will happen, it will be a very long process. Involvement of the international organizations and foreign powers watching this will be very essential. And that's why it's really very important for them to raise this issue at today's UN Security Council meeting.
Alicia Vartadan, we're going to have to leave it there. Thank you very much for joining us on the program today.
Thank you.
Now, Poland says it will no longer be arming Ukraine in the future. Warsaw opting instead to focus on its own defense needs. The shift in stance comes as the two neighbors spar over grain exports from Ukraine and comments from Ukraine's President Vladimir Zelensky at the United Nations after he said that some countries were only pretending to support Ukraine. For more on this story, here's Gulliver Cragg reporting.
Well, first of all, we should perhaps make it clear that Mateusz Morawiecki used the present tense in his declaration in Polish, said we're not supplying arms to Ukraine. We're concentrating on our own, building up our own defences. And he also said that Poland would continue to allow Ukrainian agricultural produce to transit through the country to its ports. The fact is, though, that the ports don't really have the capacity to export much of that. And he said that Poland would continue to allow other allies of Ukraine to use the airport at Rzeszów in southeast Poland, which is a key hub for supplying arms and other supplies supplies to Ukraine. So it's perhaps not quite as radical as it sounds. All that being said, though, clearly in terms of rhetoric, the Polish government has taken a turn against Ukraine very, very strongly. They're very angry with the way Kyiv reacted to its embargo on agricultural produce, but the way it's being interpreted in Kyiv and elsewhere is that it's not really so much about that as about Polish electoral politics. Poland has a general election on the 15th of October. The ruling party is in trouble due to a corruption scandal, and it's losing votes to the far right, which has a much more anti-Ukrainian stance, if you like. And so Kyiv is accusing Warsaw basically of populism, pandering to the far right with this anti-Ukrainian rhetoric and with these anti-Ukrainian moves. It all comes also after Volodymyr Zelensky at the United Nations said that by putting this embargo that Poland has put on Ukrainian grain, Poland was, the word he used, setting the stage for Russia, basically helping Russia with its international blackmail, as the Ukrainians see it, using hunger as a weapon by forcing food prices up. The Ukrainians reckon that wherever they're able to export their grain to, with the Black Sea being largely blocked by Russian warships, that's good for grain prices around the world, bad for Russia's plans to manipulate those grain prices.
Gulliver Craig reporting there from Kyiv earlier. Now, Vladimir Zelensky has landed in Washington. He'll be heading to the White House for talks today, and he'll be meeting officials from the Pentagon. His toughest task, however, will be convincing lawmakers from both parties in Congress to pass a new multi-billion-dollar aid package for Kyiv. Now, the U.S. President Joe Biden sat down with Israel's Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu in New York yesterday. The pair reportedly had a candid and constructive conversation. The talks were aimed at mending fences after Washington voiced concerns over fundamental changes taking place with Israel's democratic system. But despite the differences of opinion, the U.S. president reiterated America's ironclad commitment to Israel. Saudi Arabia's crown prince says the prospect of normalizing ties with Israel gets closer every day. Mohammed bin Salman granting a rare interview in English to a U.S. broadcaster. The treatment of Palestinians, however, remains a concern. Washington is pushing for peace, but Iran, who recently normalized ties with Riyadh, says any normalization of relations between Saudi Arabia and Israel would be a stab in the back. Gavin Lee reports.
A rare interview with Saudi Arabia's crown prince. The once unthinkable, he says, is within reach.
What would it take for you to agree to normalize relations with Israel?
Well, there is approach from President Biden administration to get to that point. For us, the Palestinian issue is very important. Every day we get closer.
We're good. Just before the interview went to air in downtown New York, this coordinated interview in the sidelines of the UN Assembly.
If you and I, 10 years ago, were talking about normalization with Saudi Arabia, and I think we'd look at each other like, who's been drinking what? But we're
good Irish whiskey.
Good Irish whiskey. That's the reason why I've never had a drink.
This is something within our reach.
3 years ago, the UAE became the first Arab country to recognize Israel since the state was established in 1948. Brokered by Donald Trump's administration, Bahrain, Morocco, Sudan followed suit. Back then, Israel agreed to temporarily suspend settlement building in the occupied West Bank. But now Iran was quick to condemn the latest apparent breakthrough.
We believe that a relationship between countries in the region and the Zionist regime would be a stab in the back for the Palestinian people and the Palestinian resistance.
So how does each side benefit? Saudi Arabia gets security guarantees and advanced weapons from the US. For Israel, it becomes a legacy moment for a prime minister under intense domestic pressure and facing continued protests over divisive judicial reforms. For the US, a grand vision was outlined at this month's G20 summit.
This is a big deal. This is a real big deal.
The US is behind plans to create a modern-day spice route linking Europe, the Middle East and India, a collaboration seen as an effort to contain China's rise. Relations between both Israel and Saudi Arabia, key to progress.
Now, Canada's High Commission says it will be adjusting its staff numbers in India. According to a statement from the mission in New Delhi, a number of its diplomats have received threats on social media. The latest tit-for-tat comes after India's official visa processor in Canada said it had stopped handling visa applications. Relations between Ottawa and New Delhi plunged to a new low after Canada's Prime Minister Justin Trudeau alleged that India was behind the killing of a Canadian citizen on its soil. King Charles III delivered remarks before lawmakers at the French Senate. The British monarch began his address saying he was touched by the messages of condolence he received from France in the aftermath of his mother's death. Boosting Franco-British ties were the hallmark of his speech, with the king saying immense good could be accomplished when France and Britain work together.
When my mother died last year, my family and I were incredibly moved by the tributes paid to her throughout France. This morning, I reread the very touching words of condolence that Your Excellencies, the Presidents of the National Assembly and the Senate wrote on that occasion. You described Her Majesty the Queen as having embodied with dignity the durability of Britain's democracy, and that she loved France just as France loved her. Jacques-Yves Cousteau said so wisely, for most of history, man has had to battle against nature to survive. In this century, he is starting to understand that to survive, he must protect nature. These words are all the more pertinent